Hey everyone, my name is Benj. I'm a wedding and elopement photographer based in Tacoma, Washington. And in this video, I'm going to teach you how to use a 35mm or even lower sensor to make medium format or even higher images. So a few years ago, a friend of mine named Ryan Brenizer came up with this idea to stitch photos together, not just in a regular panoramic type of thing just to get more of a landscape, but also that if you did it with a very shallow depth of field, the low f number with a large aperture, you'd be able to create images that looked like they were shot on large format images or large format cameras or medium format cameras or something that was much bigger than your normal 35mm or crop sensor. And in doing this, what he did was he overlaid multiple images on top of each other, essentially taking the sensor inside the camera and making it bigger by adding more layers on top of things. So the way I do it, I know some people that shoot hundreds or tens or hundreds of photos and I'll stitch them into one. Typically mine are lower, so they're something like 6 images like this one, or maybe 9 images, or max is what I do for 12. So in this video, I'll take you into Lightroom and show you how I did that with a 12 image. But before you get into Lightroom and start actually processing those images, I'll show you how I normally shoot them. So as a wedding photographer, the very first thing that I do is I typically do this with a couple, sometimes with a single person, but either way, your subject, what I do is make sure that I go up and make sure that they are in focus, they're getting a good expression, all that stuff, and they're filling the frame. So I want their head to be towards the top, I want their feet to be towards the bottom, and I want to make sure that I get their entire body, whatever I'm going to put of them, all in one frame first. So I'm not cutting it off and I'm not relying on other images to stitch together of that singular person. And then the easiest way that I've always found to do it is just to stitch almost like you're thinking of a grid, and clicking like, click one there, click one there, click one here, click, 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 click. So in that one, I took 6 images in a grid format. And I think the most important thing to think about when you're doing this is to make sure that you have plenty of overlap in your images, so that the software, whether it's Lightroom, Photoshop, any software you're going to use to photo merge, will have enough information on both sides, up and bottom, whatever, anything is connecting, to make sure that they can line those things up and merge them together well. So usually I'm wasting a lot of space by overlapping a lot, but I want to make sure that the software and the algorithms, whatever they're using, is going to be able to pick that up and do a really good job of doing that. So now that you've taken your photographs, let's jump inside Lightroom and see how we can merge those together without even jumping into Photoshop. So once you have your photos imported into Lightroom, you can do one of two things. You can start off by making the pano, or you can edit them first. I like to edit them first just so I have an idea of what it's going to look like. So I did a little bit of temperature and tint control, aka white balance, and then boosted my exposure slightly. And so then all I'm gonna have to do here is go to my presets catalog. Here are my Cascade presets. Since it's already a pretty warm image, I'm just gonna use the standard 001. That looks great to me. So I'm gonna go across there, sync all of these, and we're gonna sync things like lens corrections, but we're not gonna use things like local adjustments, noise reduction, clarity are fine. Grain, that's good. Transform, we didn't do that. Spot removal, crop, I'm gonna make sure we don't do those things. So we're gonna sync across, which is going to put the presets and that general look on all of these. And so here are the photos that I shot, again in a grid pattern. So across, then we go up and back over again. You can see there's plenty of space on each side to kind of overlap, back down, here, and then again we end up back at the beginning. So once you're ready to make your pano, you can go up to the top to photo merge, and then panorama, or if you do them a decent amount like me, you can just hit Control M. All right, and boom. So those 12 photos got merged together into this one photo here. You have in here the Panorama Options, so select projection. I've never used, or I never really used the spherical, the cylindrical, but I always use perspective. and I try to keep my boundary warp at 0 or as close to that as possible, because that's when it starts shifting things. So if you move that up to 100, you'll see that they just totally get all out of whack. They start warping, they start getting things a little crazy, but it's just the software trying to put things together. And so making sure that they are as normal as possible. And worst case scenario, if you didn't overlap well enough, you can always export this as is and then take that singular image of your subject and overlay it on top. So once that's all ready to go, like this is, you click merge. It adds to the tasks. And so since I've already saved this and I'm already ready to go with it, here's what the end product looks like. And to give you a good comparison, I've also taken the same image on a 35mm lens and cropped it in slightly to what would be the equivalent of a 40mm. And that is what that is. We'll also add the preset to that just so it's all good to go. And you can see there's such a big difference. So this was still shot at 1.4 here, but then this is 12 images on an 85mm at 1.2. So if you were able to do this, this lens doesn't exist, but it would be the equivalent of a 40mm f/0.6, which is just absolutely incredible. It's something that's literally, I'm pretty sure it's physically impossible. Your width of your lens would have to be so big, it would just be insane. So a 40mm 0.6 lens, which was just incredible. So again, here is essentially a 40mm at around, I don't know, 1.6, 1.8 if you take in the crop factor. And then again, here's the panorama with 12 images with an 85 1.2, which is the equivalent of a 40mm f/0.6. So I will say, in doing this, you're not going to want to do a lot of these because, as you kind of saw in that video, it takes a little bit of time to render, and it is a very specific look. It's something you don't want to overdo. So usually I'm taking between like 3 and 5 of these per wedding, per shoot. So you want to make sure that it's something that you're not relying on too heavily as part of your work and your workflow. So I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions about this in the comments below. If you're interested in my Lightroom presets, I'll link them in the description below as well. And thanks again. We'll see you on the next one.